So do you have access to it? I do. Forward is moving from mine and Barbie. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Today is Monday, November 4th, 2024. Monday, November 4th, 2024. It is 6 p.m. or roughly there, and we are on the 4th floor of City Hall. Obviously, we were up here today for this meeting in anticipation of the election that will be held, or that is scheduled to be held downstairs. And we'll have more information on that here shortly. But just wanted to explain why we were up here on the 4th floor. And at this time, I'd like to ask, are there any speaker appearances?
Yes. Good afternoon. My name.
Is that mic on for you, bro?
Hello.
There you go. And you can just state your name, and
okay.
If you live here in the city, just Camilla, Georgia, or wherever you're from.
Yes. My name is Bruce Williams. Yeah, I stay in the city of Camilla. Just moved here about 2 years ago from Rockdale County.
And you know what, my friend, my apologies. Mr. Williams, don't move.
Okay.
I want you to stay right there. Got a lot of important stuff going on, and the mayor just moving. Council, at this time, is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
So moved. Second.
Motion is properly second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you, Councilman. Appreciate you, Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Now we're going to have speaker appearances.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes. Again, my name is Bruce Williams. Moved here about 2 years from Rockdale County. I was a deputy sheriff up there for many years. But one of my attributes, one of my thank you to the city of Camilla is the public work department. They do a great job. For example, the guys, whoever, a female or male, whoever pick up the limbs. Whenever I cut a limb down, put it side of the road, that person pick up every limb. I don't care how big or small it is. I told my wife I got to try to meet him, just to give him a thank you. And I don't know how it's set up for us, who over who, but I got a problem with a subcontractor that doing some work on North Bacalta. It's only 2 houses on that street. It's mine, me and my wife, and a vacant house there. So they run the water line there, which I know, that's just where it is. But I went to the guys, I said, hey, look, guys, if you don't mind, don't mess up my yard like you're doing this right here. Now, how I back up a bit, the Thursday before they started, they ate lunch in front of my house and threw the trash right there by my trash can in the bones. So I talked to the supervisor. He said, I'll deal with it.
And Mr. Williams, just to make sure, these are not city employees.
No, sir. No, sir. These subcontractors.
Yes, sir.
That doing the work.
Yes, sir.
So I asked him about not, messing up the yard. Me and my wife went out of town, came back. They did exactly what I asked them not to do. Now, I know that I talked to a city worker. This were her words to me. I said, well, I know the city council meeting on meet Thursday. She said, well, the city council got bigger fish to fry, and the city manager about to leave. I said, well, I understand it, man. I said, we pay $2,800 a year at this here house. And so you telling me they can't hear my complaint? But that's what it is. But how I know it's intentional, the dirt still in front of my yard, but everywhere else, the dirt is nowhere. And it just, my biggest is respect.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I know this is not y'all problem, but it respect my property. And I asked them nice, just guys, don't leave this dirt here. Don't, they mess up my flower bed, intentional. The city worker told me to get the name off the truck and call them. I said, okay, man, I appreciate it. Now, the revenge of me came up. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You got the power now. But if I get back in law enforcement, I had the power. But then the Christian in me said, that ain't the way to do things. That ain't the way to handle things. So I'm asking you guys, if you hire a subcontractor, has to be considered of the residents in here in Camilla. That's only fair. These guys continue to come out there, and now, like I said, I know it's intentional because they don't smooth everybody's dirt, but mine's still there now in front of my mailbox. And it ain't fair. It just ain't right.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Williams, let me correct you on one thing. The one thing that I would like to correct you on is whether or not that it is not our concern. Anything that concerns any city of this city is a concern of ours. And I want you to feel that way, and I want you to pass that word around to everybody, that we may or may not be the entity that ultimately solves the problem, but you have all the right to call your government asking for help. And in the process of doing that, getting the dignity and respect that you deserve. So what I would ask you to do, without mentioning that name publicly, if you want to hang out for a little while and catch up with Assistant City Manager Luke White to give him that information if you know. If not, if you can't wait, if you can write it down and get it to Mr. White, we'll definitely take a look at what's happening with your property, sir.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. All right. Any other speaker appearances? All right. Any other speaker appearances? All right. Hearing none, we're moving on. Discussion item number one is the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. Councilman Paul.
Yes, I have four items that are proposed revisions of the proposed 2025 budget. These items are listed on the copy of the budget that I put in front of you. First one, if you look at the bottom of the page, page 19, economic development. Salaries, what is that salary for and who is it for?
It's
$60,740.
It's blacked out there, so I don't have the answer to that.
Well, the amount is $60,740.
Okay, and again, I mean, with all due respect, if you say that's what it is, we can't see it, but if you say that's what it is, that is perfectly fine. We can definitely get with the city manager and have a look at that. When you brought this up, when we had the 4 or 3 budget hearings, what answer did you get then? When you brought it up then?
I think he had to check to see what it was.
Okay, and it never got back with you?
I've heard.
Okay. Good deal. All right. And Luke, just
So part of my point is that $60,740 that could be available where I'm going with this.
Yes, sir.
All right, same page, on page 19, the Michigan Library Fund, which is funded in this budget at $15,000. I
Yes, sir.
recommended that it be moved back up to the original $40,000, which is a $25,000 increase in the proposed budget.
All right.
All right, the revision 3 would be page 21, which is the ARPA fund project and the capital outlays. You've got $40,000 for renovation of the entrance hall into the city hall. That money could be available if need be, another $40,000. The fourth revision would be the Urban Redevelopment Authority. The city of Camilla has, this particular part of the budget is not, and should not be a part of the budget. It is funded on page 22 under open transfers out to the URL in the amount of $76,000. So it is a funded item, but as far as the budget being in the city budget, it should not be there because this is a separate entity, in my opinion, and the City of Camilla Development Authority has never been a part of the budget, and it is an authority just like this. So with those revisions, I'm speaking for Mr. Collins and myself, that we would consider approving the budget if these were so addressed and changed according to our request.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate Councilman Collins, and obviously the conversations that you all have had related to this budget. I can tell you personally, and honestly, as mayor, I would have loved to have had these conversations during the three budget hearings that we had related to this. That being said, with the budget as submitted not passing for this fiscal year, and per our charter, we're now operating basically month to month on our previous budget, which is allowed. We're obviously doing very fine, so I just want to make sure that the public is aware of that. I think on the heels of changes here in the city as it relates to this council and other things, I would recommend that when this council has a full, say as though we couldn't pass it a couple of months ago, and respectfully, we needed your vote and the councilman's vote, and Councilman Collins' vote. We would have loved to have these conversations back then. But with no budget for this fiscal year and using last year's fiscal year budget now, it seems prudent from my perspective, obviously the council has the last word on this, obviously, that we wait till we have a full cadre of council members to address the budget issue in its totality, if you will. And that way the full council can determine our way forward with the new fiscal year budget. So with that, I'll yield. If there's any other comments related to Councilman Palmer's point.
Well, with these four revisions, this will preserve the cost of living raise and Christmas bonus for the employees, and I think that should be a priority item. And if these compromises and these revisions are made, then I think you will get a positive vote.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I just the level set too. I think it's important. I don't know if the memo was shared, but it's just the city manager's whereabouts this evening.
Yes. So he had an appointment earlier today, and he said that he wouldn't be able to make it this evening. And I'll give you more information on that offline.
Okay.
Yes. Any other comments? All right.
I'd like to see it made a part of the November meeting. I'll make that in the form of motion.
So we won't be voting. Typically for the work session, it would take three, at least a consensus of the council, and our process has been, Councilman, as you're aware, 3 council members to move any discussion item to a action item. However, that does not stop the ability for this to make it to the, if you don't get the 3 hands tonight, that doesn't stop it being added to the budget at the next work session. At that particular time, if you like, you'll be able to ask to amend the agenda to add that item if you like. So if you don't get 3 hands here tonight, that doesn't necessarily mean that the issue is moved.
I recommend that it be added to the agenda.
All right, are there at least 3 council members that would like to add the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget with the changes Councilman Palmer has suggested? There are at least 3 council members.
Before, Mr. Mayor, before we do that, can I ask a question pertaining one of the questions that Mr. Palmer asked about the salary of the economic development? And my thing, this right here is the CFO and city manager will have to answer that, right?
Indeed.
Okay, so I think we, if that's a misquote or misprint there, we need to know what it is.
Indeed. And I think in consideration of what's there and not there and the purpose for it being there, but obviously the councilman still gets the opportunity to ask to move it forward as is, as submitted, like any of us would. So just doing our regular course of business and out of respect for that process, if you will, we'll just ask again, I saw 2 hands. Are there at least 3 council members that would like to move this as a action item for next week? All right, thank you. So it will not be added to the agenda, but again, Councilman, as you're aware, once we get to the approval of the agenda for the next council meeting, you're more than welcome at that point to ask the council to amend. All right, thank you. All right, next item is the language access plan adoption. And everybody, I want to introduce you again to Luke White, one of our assistant city managers here. And Luke is going to run us through the basics, if you will, of what this language access plan adoption would be about.
Good afternoon, Council. Good afternoon, Mayor. The language access plan is for the community development block grant. For this, the plan would be to provide a translator to anyone who H1, anyone who's limited English and proficiency. And that's the plan for the CPP.
All right. And just as a footnote, on Thursday, the 7th, we're going to have a closeout and opening, if you will, startup meeting for the old CDBG and the new CDBG here at City Hall, I believe at 11 and at 1 p.m. But we will post those times on our website and our Facebook page for the public to come by and have a listen. And I believe that this will probably be another part of that discussion that we will have. So what I will do, Council, we need to get this set back. The sooner we can get this done, the better. Especially when we get to item number 4. So I would ask Council, is there a motion to move item number 2, language access plan adoption for the 2024 CDBG as an action item this evening so that we can get this back to our contractor to help move this part forward before our actual startup meeting on Thursday. So Council, is there a motion to add the language access plan adoption as an action item to be voted on this evening? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is properly second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. All right, Council, at this time, Is there a motion to approve the language access plan adoption for the 2024 CDBG?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion properly second. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you, Council. All right, City of Camilla retirement policy. Councilman Moore.
At this time, I'm actually going to ask to table this. I'm waiting on some information back from the city manager. But definitely looking forward to exploring our policies for our city employees.
Yes, sir. All right. Item 4, scheduling conflict, November 11th, council meeting. Council members, as you know, that week, council members will be either on the road or heading towards Tampa for the National League of Cities City Summit to ensure that we have a quorum and folks here ready to talk about everything that we need to discuss. I'm recommending that we move that meeting, that council meeting, to the following Monday. Everybody should be back by then, to November 18th at 6 p.m. I'm not going to, we will have to vote on it here, but let me just yield and just see if any questions or statements regarding that.
When is the National League of Cities, when is it going on?
Yes, sir. So the startup will start on the 12th in terms of the travel day. And the we have a youth member that will be heading that way, and I'm not sure if they're heading there on the 11th or not. But the opening session is on the 13th, and I need to verify. This says November 11th. That's Veterans Day. That's a holiday. To your point, Councilman Collins, there is a possibility that we will still be here on that day. But I'm not sure how that will work with the weekend. And with both of those, the 11th and the 12th, running together with some of us, or the majority of us, heading to Tampa and or that holiday weekend may present a problem. But again, that's why I wanted to just bring it here, kind of kick it around a little bit and just see what everybody's comfortable with. Any thoughts? Okay. So what I'll do at this time, council, is ask, is there a motion to amend the agenda for this evening to add moving the November 11th council meeting to November 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Is there a motion to add it as an action item for tonight to move the council meeting, November's council meeting to November 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m.? Is there a motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
A motion is properly second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? All opposed? Councilman Collins, that get you as a, okay. As a no. Mayor votes yes, motion carries. All right, council, at this time, is there a motion to approve moving the November 2024 council meeting to November 18, 2024 at 6 p.m. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Our motion is properly second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? All opposed? All right, motion fails. As it stands right now, and just for the public, the council meeting for November 11th will remain the same at 6 p.m. On next Monday, Veterans Day. All right. Item 4, council other. I'm going to ask Luke once again to open that up for me. All right, council, we've had some developments over the last 4 hours or so related to the city of Camilla election. Before I get started, well, first, let me do this. Today at 3:40 p.m., the election superintendent, Brunette Williford, and the assistant election superintendent, Sheriff Ford, resigned their positions as election superintendents here in the city of Camilla. And I want to read their letter into the record. To whom it may concern, again, everybody, this is dated November 4th, 2024 at 3:40 p.m. To whom it may concern, we, the undersigned, do hereby resign our duties as election superintendent and assistant election superintendent from the city of Camilla special election to be held Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. The mental duress, stress, and coercion experienced by recent court decisions regarding our role in elections and the ultimate requirement to violate our oath of office as election officials is not something either of us are willing to participate in. We hope the city of Camilla can successfully conclude the election, and it is unfortunate, in our opinion, we are left in a position where we have the choice to carry out the duties of election officials in conformity with the law. And this is signed Brunette Williford, election superintendent, and Sheriff Ford, assistant election superintendent. I've been in discussions over the last couple of hours with our city attorney to see what the options are as it relates to going forward, as it relates to this election and where this election stands as of now. And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I think you have the city attorney on the line, and just to see if there's anything changing from what we discussed earlier or any thoughts, Madam Attorney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So obviously, it has been a sudden development that I have been researching and trying to figure out a recommendation or provision in the law that gives some guidance. There is not much. So let me just give you and share with you and the public what there is in the law that says, now, municipal elections have to be overseen and conducted by qualified individuals, that being the superintendent and at least one registrar of each municipality must attend a minimum of 12 hours of training biannually as selected by the Secretary of State's office. And if the person's overseeing the election is not qualified, the state election board may fine both the superintendent or registrar and the municipal governing authority that employs them. So what happens if we have a situation where the folks who are appointed and or the default people are not willing or able to serve as municipal superintendents? There's nothing in the law that really speaks to that. The law does require that a qualified individual must be appointed to fulfill the duties of the election superintendent to avoid any potential issues or challenges to the election results. And that being that someone could say or make a challenge saying that the voting irregularities because the election was overseen by someone who was not qualified and did not have the requisite training to oversee and conduct a free and fair election. That's probably about as far as I've been able to find right now, Mr. Mayor. I mean, there are some cases that deal with this sort of issue. There is a provision in the law that the city could seek a provisional request or exemption from the Secretary of State's office, maybe to have an unqualified person serve due to providential reasons. I'm not sure what that's like. When I reached out to the Secretary of State's office, you know, I asked if they could send someone down. They said no. They don't really get involved in municipal elections in that regard. So that wasn't an option. I was hoping they would say yes if we didn't have anyone to oversee our elections. What do we do? And it's still a work in progress as I'm looking through the case law to see if there is something. I can find things that sort of nibble around the edges, but nothing directly on point. I also will note that I know that we have optical scanning equipment for our that people have to be trained on to use and understand how to use them. I don't know everything that's involved in becoming a trained election superintendent, but I know there's something, because I know the ladies who were doing it were really busy a lot and doing a lot of things. So that's all I have for now, unless it's something else that any member of council, Unison Mayor, may have questions for me. I apologize for not having more definitive response right now, but I'm looking and researching throughout the meeting and hoping to find something that might give us a bit more clarity than what I've been able to find over the last couple of hours.
All right, appreciate that, Madam Attorney. Any questions for the City Attorney?
Madam Attorney,
Yes, sir.
we do have an election tomorrow, so what are we to do?
Well, if you appoint someone to serve as your election superintendent, and assuming that individual is not qualified to serve in that role, then you may face a situation where the city and or that individual could be fined by the state election board. Of course, the mitigating factor of, an emergency event, this is an emergency circumstance, might mitigate against the imposition of a fine by the state election board if it were so inclined to impose one. Other than that, I don't know what we do. I don't know. You run, and if you have one where there's not if you move forward without a person so appointed to be the election superintendent, who's going to do the certifications to the Secretary of State? Who's going to do the reconciliations? Who's going to do all these things? And if you have an untrained, unqualified person, could someone, a candidate, then challenge the results based on irregularities, which will subject more litigation over that? I could not find anything in the law that prohibits calling off an election or for this providential reason. The law does specify, however, that state law tells us when elections have to occur. State laws, specifies those days when these municipal elections, special elections can occur. And so you couldn't say, I know you can't say, well, we'll just postpone it until next week or 2 weeks from now. You would have to have it, and from what I'm reading in the law, at the next statutorily authorized date. I don't know when that is. So it's a critical situation that's happening in real time that we're trying to figure out the best course of action, and it doesn't seem to be one, actually, to be candid with you all, unless you know of a person who can fill that position and step in the role tonight, tomorrow, and run the election.
All right, thank you, Madam Attorney. Any other questions, Council? All right, from my perspective, and I'm gonna watch my language here. We have reached the Rubicon of all of this stuff. And I think what did it, and these are my words, for these folks that we've appointed to carry out these elections, was 2 sheriff deputies coming over here today apparently on behalf of some order. On how they're going to do business as election superintendents under state law. And maybe that was the thing that was beyond the pale. And just for the public knows, and to make sure that the record is correct, because I had heard and read some silliness from a regional news agency saying that the application for a discretionary appeal had been denied. It's a lie. What was said was that when we asked the Supreme Court to look at the application before tomorrow, the Supreme Court said, no, we won't look at it before Tuesday. It was that was denied, not the application. Why do I bring that up? I bring it up because for the last 3 weeks, we've been trying diligently to get somebody to come down here, make some ruling on what this judge was doing. Was it lawful? And the question as it relates to the Supreme Court, that is still pending as of now. Hence the order on Friday that they will not expedite the application. As it stands right now, that's not scheduled to sometime in the new year. The winter at best. Surely not by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Our city attorney has been working day and night, asking for assistance as it relates to this. And so that everybody understands, when you talk about the Georgia Court of Appeals, well, went to the Georgia Court of Appeals, so that everybody understands is that anything really dealing with contempt and dealing with one of the candidates that a motion for supersedious should have been signed, not signed, but the judge that did it quit 3 hours after he did it. And the chief judge mentioned that everybody here in Mitchell County had recused himself, so they got a new judge. And the rest is history. So there hasn't been anything definitive in my mind as it relates to this. Other than we got 2 hardworking public servants that apparently got tired of folks trying to tell them what they can and can't do, and apparently in their position, asking them to do stuff that wasn't lawful. And it pains me, as a retired United States Marine that defended this Constitution for 22 years of my adult life, to have 2 Americans say that the level of duress deployed or employed by the judiciary. It's a sad day not only for this city, but for this country. And I hope now that the voices that we've been asking to come down here and have a look, to include the United States Justice Department, it is time. And everything and everybody that helped facilitate this stuff, get a look. 1,000 citizens came in and voted in person. And because of this intervention, if you will, we're stuck with this tonight. But Madam Attorney, I believe under whatever authority you may have, and I don't think you need anything from us, but obviously it appears that there won't be an election tomorrow. So I think that will trigger anything in your capacity as city attorney to start asking at the federal level to get folks down here and find out what happened. And for the attorney in Albany, Madam Attorney, please,
Yes, sir.
if you don't mind, and especially if it's within your purview, let's start that process at the federal level so we can find out what happened, why it happened, and what do we do to fix it.
I'd like to share, I did receive a call from the Justice Department, United States Department of Justice, Friday, or I spoke to someone, a call was forwarded to me, and that individual in the Civil Rights Division was very concerned. I asked how they became aware of what was going on, and she would not say, but she did understand that there were armed deputies inside the voting precinct, and there were sheriff's deputies' cars outside the precinct of early voting. And the Justice Department indicated that that was of alarm to them because of the historical chilling effect and intimidation effect that when you have armed police officers, in this case, sheriff's deputies, let me not say our police, it was the sheriff's deputies, that can be an intimidating factor in violation of Section 11B of the Voting Rights Act. And there was a serious concern, so they are already monitoring and asked me to provide an update. Of course, I didn't anticipate this happening. When I understood that our 2 election officials were approached by armed sheriff's deputies bringing messages from whomever and asking them questions and telling them that they were going to be ready to take them somewhere tomorrow night at 8 o'clock and asking them questions about what they need to take with them and what they can and can't bring with them, that I do know that that was a very intimidating to those 2 ladies to have 2 armed sheriff's deputies subjecting them to an inquisition as they were trying to prepare for tomorrow's election all day long. They've just been working hard to do what's right. And it's unfortunate that that happened. The sheriff's deputies do not have lawful authority to come and question election superintendents. under no set of circumstances do they have the authority to interrogate election superintendents and ask them what they're going to do, how they're doing it, and what time they're going to be ready to be physically transported to a courthouse tomorrow night, well before they can even complete the job of sealing the machines. After the votes are put into the machines, there's an entire process to protect the integrity of those ballots, to protect the integrity of the computation of those ballots by the machinery. You have to shut them down. You have to seal them. You have to relocate them to a place of security. You have to have the absentee ballots in a locked box. The absentee ballot clerk has to be sequestered. And then the host of protections in Title 21 of the Georgia Election Code that ensures to every citizen that the sanctity of the vote is being honored has been upended by the events of the last 10 days. And I do know, and I will state, that the election superintendent and assistant election superintendent only want to do what the law and follow the law. And unfortunately, they have been placed in a position where their physical freedom has been threatened if they don't do things that can't be done. You cannot reconcile carrying equipment over across the street to the courthouse, 4 different machines to scan votes. Certification is not something that happens instantly. And there's just a host of other things that were too intimidating that became just too much to bear for these officials who only want to serve the citizens, not any candidate. This has never been about a particular candidate. It's always been about the integrity of the election process, notwithstanding any other rhetoric, misrepresentation, and outright lie being communicated by others. This has always been about these individuals honoring their oaths and following the law.
Ms. Wiley, what about getting another election superintendent from the surrounding municipality?
That would be a decision you all would make, sir.
Well, I think that decision should have been made 3 hours ago. It's ridiculous to sit here and say that we're not going to have a city election tomorrow.
Councilman Palmer, I don't have the decision. I don't have the authority
There
to
are
select
towns in this area close
municipal
by
election
that
superintendent.
have supervised, that have qualified people who can come in here and have this election. And that is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of.
Yeah, we'll find out in a second, Councilman, because the council will make that decision.
That's beyond the scope of my authority. I don't have the authority to call around and find a municipal superintendent. I called the people who oversee elections. I went to the highest, to the Georgia Secretary of State. That was my initial outreach. And beyond that, I don't have any local contacts, and that's not within the scope of my authority.
And I'm letting you know right now. On every recording device available, the same stress and duress that these ladies had to go through, that's been doing this for us for years, I personally will not subject anybody else to that stuff and the so-called order or whatever it is that caused these 2 ladies, these 2 public servants, to resign. I'm not going to put anybody else, my vote anyway, ain't going to put anybody else through that stuff. I got a personal opinion, but I won't do it from this seat. But as mayor of this city, I'm not going to ask anybody to come here and wait for sheriff deputies to come in, armed deputies to escort them to here and to there, when we've had two qualified, experienced folks already ready to do the job. They just weren't prepared to be threatened with prison and all this other stuff. Now, the thing that I love about our democracy, Councilman, sir, you are more than welcome to make a motion. Matter of fact, I'll do you one better. Council, are there any nominations for the City of Camilla election superintendent for the upcoming special election to be held on the final day of voting on election day for November 5th, 2024? Are there any nominations?
I have a name at Don Gray, who was is certified, state certified.
Got it. Are there any other nominations? Council, is there a motion to close nominations for election superintendent for the special election to be held on the final day, November 5th, 2024?
Motion.
All right, all in favor of closing nominations? Okay. All right, all opposed? Motion carries. Nominations are now closed. Council members, all in favor of appointing Don Gray as the City of Camilla election superintendent for the upcoming final day of voting for the November 5th, 2024 election here in the City of Camilla? All in favor? All opposed? Motion fails. All right, Madam Attorney, having had one nominee where it failed, I assume that there's elements under my emergency powers that I can use the term to stop the election for tomorrow or the final day of voting. But I get the impression that without an election superintendent, that happens organically. Any thoughts?
Well, I'm sorry to be a little at loss of words. I am. You have to have someone to oversee your elections or run your elections. That's the first order of business. I've not seen anything where you run an election with just someone who's not serving in that capacity. Just a poll watcher, a poll officer, or I just have not seen that, and admittedly, I'm searching and scrambling to see something, but it all comes down to that basic fundamental requirement. It does say that if you fail to appoint a municipal superintendent, that the city clerk is required, but in our case, the city clerk has resigned in that capacity to serve as assistant municipal election superintendent. And there is a case from 2008 that I found whereby a city clerk was not qualified to serve because she had not done the training. So there was no election superintendent, and because and the city clerk was not a qualified person, then the city was left, I believe, without having someone in that instance. And I'm just reading those cases, but there's case law, at least one case whereby the city doesn't have a qualified person, did not have a qualified person to serve. And I have not seen any exception or exemption to that. And when I talked to the Georgia Secretary of State's office, I asked that question, Mayor and Council. I asked the question, well, what happens if the person that's appointed at this late juncture, because I didn't know, I asked the question, what happens if that person is not qualified? The response I received, y'all just have to figure something out. I don't know. So I don't see anything here, Mr. Mayor, Council, that will give me some light on that. Obviously, you gotta have somebody in charge to run the elections. And the qualifications of that person, the statute says what those qualifications are, other than training. I think there is a general qualification of the qualifications of a superintendent. And really it's just someone who's not, I think you can't have any kind of relationship or familial relationship. I have to look back at it. I was scrambling to sort of find out what the general requirements were outside of the training. You know, I have to look that back up. I'm looking for it. So, having said that, I was looking through your emergency powers, and I haven't gotten that far yet before the meeting started because I was looking for something, other things, scrambling. But the issue is who's going to protect the votes. If you move forward without having someone certified, then there can be a challenge made by someone, a candidate, whomever, that there's election irregularities, and so the city could face fines from the state election board and a lawsuit because you don't have the proper folks manning the station and conducting it. So there's no, it's like choosing yes, I just don't have any option. I don't know what options are available to you, if any. The options are not good. They're just, everything is bad. Everything is bad.
Well, again, okay, Mr. Mayor.
No, I was about to say, I hear what the attorney states about the training. I know the name that was mentioned. He had done this for years, but my thing is this right here, the continuous training, the new training that they have to go through. And of course, we do have the new machines. You have to be trained properly on that as well. During that tenure that he had, he haven't been trained on the new equipment. So to have someone in there, they do have to be certified, because if we don't have someone certified, according to the attorney, there is fees. The Secretary of State said we'd be fine. We don't need to be coming up on that type of allegations either.
Indeed, and I appreciate that input, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. And for me, again, in conjunction of joining that statement, I am not going to put anybody under the threat of jail to conduct an election here in the city of Camilla. And if folks want to go and look at the court orders from the Superior Court, the appointed judge in this case, they're more than welcome to go do that to see exactly what facilitated all of this, apparently, by reading this resignation letter and at least one of those orders that helped apparently facilitate this. The city of Camilla did not ask for this at all. But somehow, election superintendents got involved in something, a civil case that ended a year ago. Somehow. Stemming from this quo warranto case that is over. You know how it's over? You got folks around here, I seen at least one headline, such and such got to pay $130,000 in legal fees. That's typically a sign that it's over. But somehow, that made its way to our election superintendents to the point where they had to resign because they wanted to follow the law. And I'm not putting anybody else through that. So, Madam Attorney, from what I can see, barring a called meeting, and even then, law requires 24 hours for that. We're 12 hours away thereabouts from 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to post the resignation letter on every platform this city has so that folks truly understand what the problem, what appears to be the problem for our election superintendents. Where it appears we won't be open to take votes tomorrow. And the good thing is we got elements of our charter to help us with that going forward. And if we have to deploy that, we will. So to the citizens of this city, you've seen it play out over the last week or so in regional media on what's the basis of all of this. None of it initiated from the city of Camilla. Zero. But unfortunately, we're the ones, and the citizens of this city, apparently going to have to deal with the consequences. And that's why, Madam Attorney, it would be my expectation that one of the first calls in the morning will be to the United States Justice Department, number one. And number two, to figure out on the federal level who we need to start talking to as it relates to the judiciary. I want to make sure everybody involved understands this so that there's no confusion. We're going to get to the bottom. All of it. All of it. Understand that. And with that, counsel, it appears we've reached the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.